Good morning. I want to welcome all of you this morning to our Wednesday morning class coming to you from HeartLight Spiritual Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We will welcome those that are here in person. Thank you for being here. And for you that are joining us live on stream, and for you that will see us later. So, we are talking about chakras. Chakras. Now, up until this time, we have talked about three major subjects that I want to bring to our attention. Is we've talked about how that this whole idea of rebirth, this idea of born again, only begins when there's conception. So we've talked about physical conception between two people to form a physical body is only the shadow of that which has been accomplished in the mind of our Creator. And that we learned that before there was a physical conception, there was also a spiritual conception before that, in which it conceived itself as an idea. And we are that idea of itself. But you know, ideas are just ideas. And until they're formed. And that's called gestation. So just as two people come together and conceive, with their DNA, with their chromosomes, and start the process, they have to then let that process happen in what we call gestation. That's when the idea comes together and starts forming itself. And once it is fulfilled, that aspect of itself, then it births itself. So this has been a wonderful instruction, recipe, I guess, to how do we manifest. And we're going to manifest through the idea of conception, gestation, and birth. Now we can take that into our personal life individually. We could even take it as a community here at HeartLight, of what it means to have ideas. There's a lot of attempts to bring forth here, because people all have ideas. We all have ideas, because we're innately creative people, and we have ideas. And therefore, ideas are great to have, and there's plenty of them. We have to put them into the next stage of how to bring them into the gestation period of the how. How do we form it? What do we need to do it? And then once we have done that, then we are ready to birth and to manifest. So that's the first part of what this class has been basically about. Then how, the first part of the class was also about how that we're moving in a paradigm shift of healing some of the last bit of separation that has gone on in the name of spirituality under the title of body, mind, and spirit, which has served us well and continues to serve us well in the overlap of the old paradigm and the new paradigm. And as we've mentioned here, the fact that we're still dealing with a lot of what's left over from Pisces age, mixed with the new things that's happening in the Aquarian age, that we really have to sharpen our discernment, our intuition, to know the difference between what is breaking down out of the Piscean age and what's breaking through in the Aquarian age. You're going to need to do that in your life, because if you don't, you may not give yourself a good self-diagnosis of what's going on with you, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, or whatever. Some things that are going on in our lives are due to maybe misusing our free will, choice, and whatever, and we have to know the difference. But some things that are happening in our life is very spiritual in nature, and in a way of pushing us. When there's a birth, you got to push, right, mothers? Everybody's saying push one more time. And it's like, why did I start this in the first place? But joy cometh in the morning. is the main thing. So we're in a place right now where I think there is a push. And I think we're feeling birth pangs. And I think it's all over the globe that people are feeling these birth pangs. And they need to understand that this is what's supposed to be happening. It's not a punishment. It's not of the wrong or the right. It is just a part of the cycles of how spirit works in the form of evolving itself. And to evolve itself, it has to put it into a container that evolves. So we are the containers to evolve and give it a different level of consciousness. But it's not just consciousness now, because consciousness is becoming. See, consciousness is not a destination. It's not a goal. It's just another level to get to in our evolutionary process. So as we get to the place of consciousness, then consciousness wants to become into a more denser manifestation of itself. And that's another thing we've been talking about, is how that steps down in vibration and frequency before it really becomes a part of the most dense outer physical, is through the endocrine system. Through the endocrine system. So that's kind of where we left off to begin on these chakras and what part that they play in that. So, out of Gerber's book, The Vibrational Medicine, this is some key notes to remember, and I thought they say it very simply and easily so that I don't get off on some rabbit trail somewhere. These will put it together a little bit better for you. The major chakras are specialized energy transformers which take in subtle energy and distribute it to the major glands, nerve centers, and organs of the body. The function of the chakras is related to various aspects of consciousness, especially emotions, which affect the flow of energy through the centers. When the emotional body of the individual has a field disturbance, and I like this term instead of blockage, disturbance. A field disturbance related to an emotional problem, the emotional disturbance becomes translated into an altered flow of subtle energy through a particular chakra. So each of the 7 major chakras has a particular emotional and a spiritual issue which affects its proper functioning. One of the first things that we teach in the Soma Energetics teaching, one of the very first things, is how to balance a chakra. And of course, the fact that we're using the specific tool of a tuning fork is how that we teach to do that. And what we find out, that once a person is familiar enough with energy and detach from the control of it and let the energy move things, we see how that putting a particular tuning fork, in this case it's the root chakra that we're talking about, and we have our first fork for that, which is a red oot fork. When we put that in there, what we find out is that the energy will move the fork first clockwise. Clockwise. And if you allow it, it'll stop and it'll go counterclockwise. Stop and it'll go clockwise. Stop and it'll go counterclockwise. And it'll keep doing that until it just stops. And that's when we know we've balanced the chakra, because the outer part of the etheric of the chakra is following the counterclockwise, which is, I got a little visitor up here, little bug. Come on up. Is the male, what we call the yang, the male, and that's the cytoplasm. It goes clockwise in the outer part. And then the inner is the electron, and it goes counterclockwise. So you've got things going like this, clockwise and interclockwise. So when you get those two balanced together, it'll show in the tuning fork when that has happened. So I'm saying that to say that this is so important, that to keep the chakras in balance. Keep your chakras in balance is very important. So when an individual has significant unresolved emotional issues of any of these areas, chakra dysfunction may occur. Talking about emotionally. And I want to say to you that as you're growing spiritually, you want to less and less suppress emotional issues in your life. Don't stuff them. Deal with them. Deal with them. If you can deal with them on your own, good. If you can't and you're blessed to have that kind of relationship with a partner, good. Now, some people love their partners and they have great relationship with their partners, but sometimes that's not the one on a deeper, intimate, spiritual level because you're too close together. The other part is to see someone such as myself or somebody that you can go to for a little bit of counseling of some kind. Somebody you connect with, and you all need that in your life. Whether it's me, I know some of you talk to Connie. Connie's a great one. She's a wonderful one. Sorry, Connie, I hope I don't give you a lot of phone calls or emails on that one. But she's wonderful to talk to. I enjoy doing that. She has that. And there's others among us and others you may know outside of here. But make sure there's someone in your life that you can go to on a level in which you have a very safe space to really take off the mask and be real. And be real. And that person must be a person that does not judge you right or wrong, good or bad. So have that in your life. It's important. If I'm more than glad to offer to be that, but it doesn't matter. I don't care who it is. Just make sure there's someone that you can deal with these problems and not keep stuffing them until they build to become a real disturbance in the chakra. Because the chakra is a transformer and it's only transforming what you give it. So make sure that you're keeping all this clear in the sense of how the chi, the energy, the vital force is flowing through the system. Again, such dysfunction leads to deprivation of subtle energy flow to the body region and associated organs and glands supplied by that chakra. If the chakra blockage is chronic, that means you've had it for a long time, it's been suppressed over and over, because things tend to show up in our life as an opportunity for healing. And either we take that opportunity or we don't take that opportunity. And oftentimes we don't. I mean, who wants to go the way, that doesn't feel so good? Most of us want to always be in the place that everything feels good. But that's not always where the spiritual path leads you. Spiritual path isn't always a feel-good path. Don't let anybody tell you that. They're doing you a disservice if they're going to tell you that coming into new thought or metaphysics or whatever you want to call anything is the answer and that you will live in total bliss for the rest of your life. That is not what's happening, because that's not what you're here for. You're in God's school. You're here to learn. There's subjects you like better than other subjects. Remember in school, you couldn't wait to get a certain subject if that was your thing and you liked it. And then it came math time. For me, oh no, it's math time. But I had to go in that class anyway. So it's the same way with the lessons of life. There's some things that really we love doing. We have compassion and passion to do it. Other things, not so much. But it all carries within it the balance of a good human spiritual life. If that blockage is chronic, cellular imbalance and disease may eventually occur. So, what we teach here and what we have gotten from many sources, actually, not just one. I got it first from the first book that we started out with, which was the Debbie Shapiro book on the Body-Mind Workbook. Was the first that I heard, but I've done research on it since then to find out that she's pretty much correct on the fact that most diseases and illnesses that end up being diagnosed at the psychological, soma, physical level has been in our blueprint from 6 to 9 months or a year. That means that something could have been done, say a year, or 9 months is a good one because that's a gestation number. So say for 9 months that you have had this mispatterning going on in your etheric blueprint. Now somebody tell me why that's important. Why do I keep going back to the etheric blueprint? What does the etheric blueprint do?
Life lessons.
But that's where it starts, right? It's the outer, it comes into the body. Yeah.
Okay, that's absolutely. Anybody else? What does the etheric blueprint do?
It maps out your life.
Gives instructions to
It drives cellular replication. Say that with me. It drives cellular replication. Now you've said it. You've heard yourself say it. So now you're going to remember it. So cells build themselves by looking over at the blueprint of the etheric. And whatever the blueprint of the etheric is what the cell does. So, Western allopathic medicine says, let's fix the cell. We fix it with medicine, surgeries, whatever else. But they didn't change the blueprint. Because the cancer was in the blueprint. The illness was in the blueprint. Months and months and months before it ever happened. And that's why in the West, we mostly have to have a physical symptom before we go to the doctor and before we actually get serious about changing aspects of our life, which is changing our epigenetic footprint. If we would do that now, we could have a completely different outcome for the rest of our physical life. And this is the hardest thing in this world ruled by the 5 senses. To believe only what you can see, what you can hear, what you can smell, what you can taste. All of that. It says nothing starts until then. Why? Because again, we start at birth. Hear me. We start at birth. That's why I've said with astrology, maybe we shouldn't just start with birth. Maybe we should go back to conception. What's the sign of my conception? If I can figure that out. And maybe you can do it astrologically. Maybe you can do it through intuition. Ask your guides. You're not without any source of information that you want to draw to yourself. It is all there. You have access to the intelligence of the universe itself. God, source, whatever you want to call it. It's the all-knowing. So we're not limited to what we can get, because people say to me all the time, well, I don't know, and I have no idea about this, and I have no idea about that. You know a lot more than you think you do. We have to get in touch with that part of ourselves. So you see what I'm saying is people want to get the cancer, then they start changing their diet, they start doing exercise, they start spending money on all kinds of alternative methods and herbs and vitamins. I know, been there, done that. But how do we get people to realize preventive is the way? Preventive. Growing up, we had a piano in the house. And my folks, every year, I don't know, maybe every year, hired this man to come out there. And he had a little toolbox, and he'd get out of the toolbox this little tuning fork, about this size. And it was a 440A tuner, which is what we tune music to in the West. And he would tune our piano. Now, if there was a time that we missed a year or so, the piano would get so out of tune that you could hardly play it because it lost the music lost its translation through the instrument. Are you with me? In other words, the disturbance was the strings in the piano. Some of them were too tight, some of them were too loose by that time. And so when you play the music took on the pattern of the instrument it's going through. But if we kept the piano tuned, even when it didn't sound like it needed tuned, it never got in that shape of losing the melody. The melody is your life melody. That's what you're all looking for. You're looking for your soul's melody. A song is your life song that is inside of us. But because we're not preventive in the West, I think more people are in other cultures, but we are not. But we need to become, is what I'm saying to you. And this is what we've tried to offer in Soul Energetics through the energy vitality technique, is to get people to come in for a tuning. How many people, how many you yourself, but how many people do you know that just say, I don't know what it is, something's just off today? You ever had days like that? You don't even know what it is, but it's just kind of an off day. Things just don't feel right. Everything's kind of coming at you differently. That's the same, but it's just off today. That means you're heading toward out of tune. What do? Get a tuning. That's why we need more practitioners and people that can tune people. You don't have to get so deep and into it that you want to become a professional practitioner or certified. You know, we offer that to very serious professional people, but all people, we're all ministers, we're all practitioners, we're all there. It's not please don't give the power to those who are specialized into it. We've had enough of that in 12,000 years of reductionism. Even in the medical, I still am passed around from this one because this one's not trained in that one, and now I got to send you to this one. Now you need a neurologist because I'm a medical doctor and I don't know anything about that, so we'll send you here. So we're all over the place because everybody's a special. Until we find an integrative. Those doctors, that new functional medicine that's rising up, are those that are into cause. But it's hard to get people there. Because you know what it takes? Training, education. Every one of us should be in the business of spiritual education. I mean, how often are you able to open up with loved ones, friends, whoever in your world that is open enough for you to sow the seed of and teach something that can help them to see beyond the five senses? I like to see HeartLight as that kind of a training center. I like to think that when you leave here on Wednesdays and Sundays, that it's not out of mind. What is it? Out of sight, out of mind. And you just go on with your little lives and never think about anything and forget that you're a spiritual being having a human experience. In the grocery store, wherever you go today, that you're allowed to go today and be a part of today, wherever you are, usually there's an opportunity always at some level for you to plant a seed. So, just a little bit of advice there on that one. Alice Bailey, who, as you know, is in my book that I read quite a bit on her exhortation before her transition, that she saw a time that there would be those who would step up and be trained in sound that would change the structure of humanity and bring forth a new race of people. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's in my book, Fork in the Road. But I have another one from her out of Esoteric Healing. The new medical science will be outstandingly built upon the science of the chakra centers and upon the knowledge all diagnosis and possible cure will be based on chakras. One more. This is from David Tansley, Radionics and the Subtle Anatomy of Man. It says, what one must realize is that the chakras are the source of the power that determines the physical, mental, emotional makeup of the individual. And as such, they are the key to well-being. This can only be done in the light of an understanding of the chakras and their relationship to all bodies, dense and subtle. Chakras are outside of the physical body and are a part of the etheric body. So, before I get that deep into the chakras, again, I want to make sure that we've laid a good foundation about the etheric part of your physiology. Not all of your physiology is visible to the five senses. And the part that isn't, that's a little bit higher vibration than what I can see right now, is that first layer that is coming to the body is called the etheric body. Now, why this is so important is because this is where the making of chakras come from. They don't come from your dense physical body. They come through the part of their physiology that is not the density of matter as we see it. It is beyond that. I'll tell you a good example of that I learned is when I was bringing in this idea of the perineum. In phase one, we teach people to open the perineum. No, that's not it. What do I want, Tim? Pericardium. I get those two mixed up. Pericardium. Let me start. The pericardium. The pericardium is a less fleshy part of the heart. It's kind of an invisible almost sac between the heart. So it's the etheric heart. And that's called the pericardium. And the pericardium has its own meridian channels through the body that we teach. So this is a good example that if the heart has an etheric part of itself, that means every organ in your body has an etheric part of itself. So where does the illness or disease start? It can start in the etheric part of the organ. So it's important that you understand that this is pretty much science. This is not a lot of woo-woo stuff, that we know that they form an invisible energy system that controls the endocrine system of the physical body, just what we've been teaching. Again, I did not know why that was so important until now, because I want you to get this, because the message from Spirit, what I call present truth of our time, not their time, but I want the present truth of our time. Are you with me on that? What is Spirit saying to us? I know what Spirit said to them. I know what Spirit said to Buddha. I know what Spirit said to Jesus. I know what Spirit said to all the saints of the past. But I want to know what God's saying in to us in 2021, in the midst of what we're going through. So, as Spirit is less, how do I want to say, Spirit coming in to become physical through those who have done the work to have less disturbances. And most of you here and listening to me has done some work. Whether it's through modality of that you've learned, some energetic healing modalities you've learned through meditation, through all the things that you've been through, has been certainly a lot more work than most people you know. I mean, you're still kind of the exception of the family. Am I right? And most people in your world, you're somewhat the exception. I don't mean that from an egoic point of view, but I'm saying because you've done the work, it's put you in a different place, a different position, a different consciousness that is not sometimes understood or validated by those who have not done the work. And it is work. Faith without works is dead, it says in the scripture. Faith without works is dead. So you that have been doing the work and learned the tuning forks and learned chakras and all that kind of thing, has moved spirit further in its journey down to descend into the lower vibrations to manifest. In other words, spirit is less mystical. It doesn't have to be mystical. I don't even know if I like the word mystic and mystery anymore when you really understand what that means. It shouldn't be. It should be the natural, not the supernatural. This is the birthright of all of us, not some of us. God didn't say, I'm going to make you this and you that. Your choices and your contracts and your agreements is what's making you unfold your spiritual divinity, sacred self, into more and more integrating to human self. So the spirit self is trying to get to the human self. Unfortunately, because we didn't do the work with these lower chakras that we're getting ready to talk about, we didn't do the work of getting out our old first 5-6 years of tribal stuff that we picked up in utero and all of that, and the stuff we went through in the sacral with relationships with others, and then all of the stuff we went through about our self-esteem and whatever. We're still dealing with those issues while out here reading the books and getting smarter. We did get smarter. Let's admit it. We got smarter. We went to the workshops, we listened to the tapes, we read the books, and we got smarter knowledge. But we're still down here dealing with issues that happened while we're being formed in our mother's womb. Or the dysfunction of the family that we were born into. And we didn't, my brother or my sister got the cupcake before I did. Don't think that stuff isn't there, because it is. Mother doesn't love me like him, like her, like my brother, like my sister. I'm less important. I didn't get picked. All of those kind of things are the very foundation of the root chakra for survival. And we should not, with all this intelligence up here, be dealing constantly with what happened in utero in the first 5, 6, 7, 12 years of our life. And that's been the message here. Grow up. Joan Rivers, grow up. And as I've told you, my whole ministry 50-some years ago started with that one scripture in Ephesians 4 that says, until we come to the fullness of the stature of Jesus Christ unto a perfect person, being no more tossed to and fro, being no more children, being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, but growing up in love. Ephesians 4. That's why I started out with. That was my first foundational from my teaching to the church I was in. Grow up, and they didn't like it because they thought they were there. They thought they'd saved, they'd made Jesus their Savior, and all they had to wait for Jesus to come and get them, and they don't want anything in between. And I came along and said, there's more for you. And they said, how dare you? We are deacons. We are elders. We are the ministers. We are the teachers here. They had arrived on this side of heaven. But I'm saying heaven is now. You know, the windows of heaven have been opened unto you. Receive the Spirit without measure. And they said, what kind of where are you getting this stuff? That's what my aunt said to me, my pastor. Where are you getting this kind of stuff? This is not in the Assemblies of God teaching. I said, no, but it's in me. It's in me. And that began that journey. There are 4 potential conditions which can interfere or disrupt the proper flow of energy in the chakra system. That is in one or more chakras. And that's another thing that we need to learn. We need to learn to be able to find out, what chakra do I need to work with? You need to learn how to check yourself and see what chakra is ready. Okay? Now, before I give you these conditions, let me say again to you that what is happening that's so exciting, if I can get you into a spiritual frame of mind, is that the spirit that was on its way down to become our cell tissue, as Carolyn Mace calls it, our cell tissue, got stuck in its pure levels somewhere in the vibrational dimensions of becoming because of disturbances in these three chakras, because we had not taken care of all of these events that we're emotionally, how does she say it? We're emotionally financing. I like that. How are you financing what happened to you 20 years ago? Are you still talking about it? Are you still, I can't go there, I can't feel that, it changed my life, what a mess it was. I mean, if you're still talking about it and reliving it, you're financing it with your energy. And you're taking energy from yourself you could be using to heal and manifest your life.
Exactly, yes.
We got to find that out. Those are classes that we need to do, is find out, where is my energy going? You need to get up every day and say, where is my energy going today? Am I going to spend 60% of my allowance on regretting my past? Or am I going to spend 40% or 30% on being worried about the future and where I'm going? Where are your cords? Where are your cords? You know, my mother was an operator, and I loved to go up there and watch her at the telephone company, and all those things that they plugged in, there's just wires going everywhere and plugging in. And that's the way I see this energetically. It's plugging into here. And sometimes they'd plug in and listen to people. And they were terrible things, but thank God they could just unplug it and it stopped. So we got to look at what we are financing. But what I'm trying to tell you that is so great is that now, because of the work you've done, and you've lightened the lower chakras and cleaned them up enough, that spirit is saying, okay, I can descend a little further toward physiology. And that's what we call the visceral system. That's when you get the real physical gut feeling. Some of these things that I'm feeling now are in my physiology. If something's not right, I can get sick in my stomach. I get nauseated physically. And that's because spirit has reached such a level that it can start using the endocrine glands and organs to speak to us at a more dense physiology. Does that make sense to you? So, I mean, this is the thing, and I'm going to talk to myself again, but this is the thing. I mean, I got some issues. I noticed there's quite a few eye issues going on in this group. People getting cataracts, they tell me I've got the beginning of that. I don't know. Not ready for surgery or anything, but I got that going on. Most of us do that are 60s, 70s, and 80s. We got things going on. There's no doubt about it. But in some cases, and this is where you have to have self-diagnosis or get to an energy worker that is good enough with energy diagnosis before and after you go to your physical doctor. I'm not saying don't go to your physical doctor. Go to your physical doctor, but also see where it came from energetically and where can it go energetically, not where it is. And that's when you start looking up energy practitioners who work with energies and especially chakras. The chakras are what holds this information that you want to know that's going to help you to get to your enlightenment stage. But see, enlightenment's up here. But I came through enlightenment. I was enlightened. Hear me. I was enlightened before. I'm a part of the enlightened one. Huh? God, Christ, whatever you will call it. I've been enlightened. But I chose to make the journey of descension. Why? So I can ascend back. That's Kundalini talk. That's Kundalini talk. And I know everybody wants the ascension, but you cannot be a candidate for ascension until you fully completed the descension into the human bodily experience. And a lot of so-called religious / spirituality has aborted that journey and said, no, from here we ascend. No. You can't ascend and push all this stuff down without the work. The shadow work, whatever you want to call it. Whoops, you got to have it. Sorry about that. Am I making any sense? Okay. I make sense to me with Scripture. The Son of Man must descend that he may ascend. That's Scripture. Must descend. So the divine descended all the way into the human experience of a man we call Yeshua Jesus. And Buddha, if you please. I still think there's a little difference in what happened with Jesus and Yeshua than Buddha. Buddha received enlightenment, which is a little different than the rebirth of spirituality into the human. So when you get into this idea of the Christ, you're getting into a whole different universal level than some person of a culture who got enlightened. And that's why I've tried to take Jesus so much away from Christians, because they've also imprisoned the Christ. When they made him their only Savior and their only God and their only being, then Christ became confined into that human being. And that's not what Jesus brought us. Jesus did not bring us to the idea that he has received human enlightenment. He is here to say, the divine has incarnated in me to the very depths of my being, and now I shall ascend. And what I've done, you can do, for greater works have I done, so shall you do. So I just can't get off of this, how important it is that we do these last 3 root chakras, because they hold our human story of our incarnation as well as our incarnations. I don't care if you believe in 1 incarnation or 1,000, doesn't matter to me. But whatever you're the sum total of has been recorded in these chakras. So the fact that this thing is getting closer to where we live every day, I want to say this. Spirit wants me to say that. It's disturbing what's been disturbed. I just heard that. Spirit just said that to me. Tell them, I'm going to disturb what's been disturbed. In other words, how it's been in disturbance, we're going to disturb that back into balance. So a tuning fork, a solfeggio, especially tuning fork, is disturbing the old vibrations that are in play in a certain person's condition, because it doesn't have those frequencies, so everything stops and says, wait, what is that? I don't know that frequency. Are you with me? I don't know that frequency. I don't know this oot. What's an oot? I know doe, a deer. Got that one down. When I hear doe, a deer, I'm there. Oot. That frequency, I can't find it anywhere. So what happens? It shuts down enough that spirit gets through and says, I'm going to disturb the disturbance and bring it back with balance. I'm going to correct it. And there's much in our story that needs correction. Most of us don't even remember things correctly that we think happened to us. Most people don't want to. But we really don't. The brain rewrites most of our stories for us and gives us a false story. And if you still have parents that are alive or anybody that you're holding anything with, if you really can get in pure communication with them, sometimes it's, no, I don't think I said that. No, I didn't say it that way. You didn't mean that? And I've been carrying this for 35 years? I thought you didn't love me. And you did? That corrects in the first chakra. See? And that's why I'm for authenticity here. Let's get real. If we're going to talk, let's talk real. To me, nothing's off limits here. Talk about anything you want. We need groups where we can talk about anything we want. Because even if I hear myself tell my story, I'll go, did that really happen that way? Or have I so made up that story that it seems real because I've told it so much? But I don't really think that's quite the way it happened. That's the moment of grace in which I can say, Divine Holy Spirit, come in and rewrite my script. Rewrite my story. So the four potential conditions are blockage of the chakra, or what we call a disturbance of the chakra, imbalance in the activity of the chakra, and this is another one too we found in Soma Energetics, underactivity and overactivity. People get so excited when they get the tuning fork, the energy tuners, and let them into the chakra, the etheric chakra, and how that the energy will move it. And sometimes it just flies, and they go, "Ooh, look at that!" And we're going, no. You're dealing with an overstimulated chakra. It's not balance, it's overstimulated. If they put it down and it barely goes and whatever, it can be understimulated. So the point is, again, to do the balancing thing until it is balanced together and equals itself, is the idea. Cloudiness of a chakra. What does that mean, cloudiness? It means things are not clear. Things are not clearly seen or understood. I'm kind of foggy clouded by a filter of some kind. And you got to watch these filters. The ego is big on filters. To get you to see something through a filter, a lens. And then eventually damage to the chakra is very important. Okay. The first chakra is so important that I could be on it for 6 months. I'll try not to be. Don't get worried. The Mulder Hara chakra, it is called in Sanskrit. That's Moolad, Hara, Hara, Mulder Hara chakra. It is considered our first chakra in the ascent, but it's the last one in the descent. It is the last one. It is the first one in the ascent. It's the last thing. When energy comes through the crown and goes through all of this, it finally lands at its most dense point, which is the first chakra. Muladhara means root center in Sanskrit. It is located in men inside and midway between the scrotum and the anus, and in women 1/2 inch in the vagina on the cervix. I don't know if you knew that or not. And most people don't want to talk about that. Say it. It is associated with the gonads, with the reproductive. It's very hard to separate this first and second one. They really overlap with each other, very much so, as you will see. So this chakra is primarily to do with the basic survival and primitive energy. It's your primitive side of yourself. Primitive would mean your fight and flight, for instance, and all of this instinctual things. Most animals are first chakra beings and second chakra. Although primitive may seem an extreme word to use, many of our present-day actions are still in this nature. Fear is the most common underlying emotion. Fear. With fear about survival being a major preoccupation. I really think that's interesting. Now, you that have pets, and you that go out in nature, I don't know where my little ladybug went. She was up here. My little ladybug here. That's my little pet. I don't know where it is. Flew away. What was I saying?
Those who have pets, go out in nature.
Go in nature and see that. We'll see that. Do you see anything in nature or the animal kingdom that the minute it is conscious, the first sight of consciousness starts thinking about its death, as humans do? Humans immediately learn you're going to die. Pets and animals and nature has no thought whatsoever about the future of how unhealthy they're going to get, old they're going to get, retirement, the whole thing. They have nothing to do with that whatsoever. They just live each moment in who they are. And what happens just happens. This is saying that if you're stuck in the first chakra, you are so preoccupied with your survival. And it's true. I'd hate to know how much I've spent worrying about getting older and dying and what it's going to be like, and all the money and energy goes into all kinds of insurances. We need health insurance. We need burial insurance. We got insurance, and we're constantly making these energy cords with death and old age and degeneration. Now, I'm going to be careful here because I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I don't know that. I can't say that. Because you got to render to Caesar's what's Caesar. You got to do what you do until it gets here. But I'm just saying the mentality of the human mind is that of survival. Why do you think there's so much wars and countries that hate each other? Because they're afraid of each other. They're afraid if they get a better bomb than we do, they're going to destroy us. So we need to get a better bomb to protect ourselves from them. And we're constantly in this state of what can we do to survive, and the fear of others within us. That is so important for us to realize. These are basically primitive activities that trigger fearful and aggressive responses. Like I said, if I fear you, I'm going to treat you differently. If I fear you, I'm going to react to you differently. If I fear you, I'm going to be on guard with you. If I'm in fear of you, I'm going to be protective of myself. I'm going to build up a wall, a defense. And this is going on, especially today. Oh my God, this is a manifestation of first chakra going on in the world and in America especially, which is an opportunity to heal. That's saying, America, you're at the bottom. You're at the most dense part of your experience. And now, if you will take advantage of this, you can become an initiate for ascension. And you keep saying every day, you that watch news and stuff, can it get any worse? And it does. Because it's still bottoming out. Huh? All the separation, racism, all this isms that it's showing its ugly head out of the body and manifesting on the body politic, out of the toxicity of the first chakra of America. What do you think the first chakra of America was? Tribalism. Immigrants, people coming from every culture, every race, everybody was flowing into America, the melting pot of the world, the land of the free, of the poor. That's what it said, give them to me, come on in. Most of your parents, your relatives came from somewhere other than here, unless you're a Native American. They've come from Ireland, they've come from England, they've come from wherever that your ancestry comes from. They came here because America started out as a first chakra nation, that we're all one. We're all a part of the tribe. But we are a melting pot that never melted. And now we got to go back and do the work. I know my time's up, but I want you to get this. You got to do the work. Whether it's here or in the nation. Well, I have a lot more to say. And I'll tell you why we need to stay with this first chakra, because it's the foundation of everything and every other chakra. If we don't get this one, the rest it's going to be weak. Because every chakra carries itself into the next chakra. The story of the first is going to show up in the second. So we need to do that. So we got a few minutes here, so let's do a couple of things. First of all, I gave you some yoga postures to do, which was the baby thing. Anybody tried that? Done that? Yes. You can do it right from bed if you want to, or on the floor. It's very important. It opens the first chakra. And it's very healthy too, a great stretch. Another one that's simple, and you can do this before you get out of bed, is pull your knees to your chest. That's a great low back stretch, but also it opens the perineum part of ourselves. Great way to start out the day to do that. So this I'll just keep adding a little bit more to that, but there are definitely postures for each one of these chakras that you can do on a daily basis. So let's end this morning with a little chakra meditation, a grounding meditation. And you that are with us, I hope that you will continue to stay. If not, we want to thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your support for this class. So let's find a comfortable place. If you're in your chair, sit with your back straight and both feet planted firmly on the floor. Take a deep breath. Feel your body expand and contract as you breathe. Let your chest rise and fall. Rise and fall. Feel your legs, your feet, and the floor they are placed on. Feel the solidarity of that contact that your legs and feet are making with the chair and the floor. Feel the weight of your body in it and how the force of gravity naturally, effortlessly pulls you downward, easily, soothingly. Bring your attention to your feet. Ever so slightly, press your feet into the floor and feel your legs engage with the earth plane. Do not let this pressure become tension so that your muscles in your legs tighten, but feel a subtle current of energy running from your first chakra down to the earth. Try to keep this current going as we move on to grounding the upper body. As you tune into the weight of your body, you will gradually become aware of the center of gravity at the base of your spine. Feel how your body is now resting on that point. Focus on it as if it were an anchor holding you down. When you feel anchored in this spot, you can begin to integrate the rest of your body into the grounding. And now turn into your torso, focusing your attention on the central channel of your body. Now, this is not necessarily the spine, which is closer to the back of the body, but the part of your internal core that is aligned over our center of gravity. We call it the Sushumna. Take a moment to align the top of your head, your throat, heart, stomach, and abdomen with all other chakras as the energy finds its way into your root chakra, where they rest. Take a deep breath and allow the alignment to gently settle in and balance the first chakra. You've now established a vertical column of energy. Imagine this column as a great cord, preferably a deep red color. Deep red, running far above your head, through the center of your body and down into the ground, passing directly through the empty space between your seat and the floor. Now take special time to make sure this cord runs through your anchor point at the first chakra and continues not only to the ground but deep into it as you connect with Mother Earth. Connect with the heart of Mother Earth as it pulsates in its electromagnetic field and vibrating with life and possibility. Now gradually let your torso sway forward and back, side to side, and then in circular motion over the first chakra. So everybody do that. We're going to take our body and we're going to sway forward. Come on, move forward, move your body forward. And just kind of sway forward and back. Let your back keep hitting the back of the chair. Okay, now we're going to do it from side to side. All of this is over our base first chakra. Notice how the point at the base of your spine does not move, yet the body moves around it. We want to be able to keep our grounding even in movement, and this allows the body to practice this skill. Allow excess tension to drain off into the ground, still keeping your feet slightly pressed into the floor, and then return to stillness, the still point at the center of the chakra. Now as we return slowly back to the consciousness and awareness of this space, feeling the awareness of our lower chakras, the solar plex, the stomach, and all of the glands and all of the organs, the pancreas, colon, the digestive. And move down to the sacral, to our sexual organs, our place of emotion Finally, we land in our root base chakra. As we leave here today and practice what we've learned, we're going to ask our root chakra to speak to us and show us the stories that we have filed there that is not in alignment with truth. And when the truth comes, let it make you free from all past emotional baggage. And may you feel the force of the wind and the breath of spirit moving you forward as a lighter being with less baggage to take with you into the co-creation of your destiny and future. Just take a deep breath or two and bring ourselves back. The Hara chakra. Fascinating. Fascinating information. Thank you so much for coming this morning. Have a great day. Hope to see as many of you as we can on Sundays. Remember, if you want to get a seat, get here early. And people are getting here earlier and earlier. But that's just the way it is. If you can just hold on another, maybe a couple months, I hope, if everybody plays right, that we can get to a place where they're going to let more of us in together. All right. If you have anything to give this morning to the class, I appreciate it. Thank you for your support.